What's going on, everybody? This is James Grandmaster Faqs Voice, and you're here for another episode of the Faqs Project. Today, very special guest, David Brothers. We are here to talk about Good Devils Don't Play Fair. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out and asking me. This is pretty fun.
Look, I feel like I'm at the point now where I have to do a little bit of my own outreach.
Yeah. Not everybody has a team. I get it.
Especially when it comes to like projects that I really want to talk about. So I got hip to this particular comic that you were putting out in, I'm going to say June. I think you had the release excerpt, and of course the FOCs and the pre-sale started to happen, and I was like, this just automatically, just from the cover alone, just looks dope, and I just have to find out what the intricacies of the book might be. And then it turns out, because I already knew initially that it's 64 pages.
Yeah, 64 pages. We even have like a very skinny spine on the book.
Yeah, so like my first thought, because I read this. I read Time Waits, of course, done by you for Distillery, and I'm thinking that you already created another graphic novel, but this is almost like in 3 vignettes, 3 particular stories. What is it? For one, you have Good Devils that's in there. Now this was done with the Cry Punch manga anthology.
Yeah, there was this anthology that this guy put together, and I think he kickstarted in 2021. It was like a big post-pandemic thing, like we got to get back outside kind of thing. And my friend Nick Dragotta, we would hang out and talk about comics in his studio in his backyard, hang out with his cats and stuff, and talk about comics as a way of turning into making comics if you do it long enough and like with the right people. So I kind of like got bullied into giving Nick a script, and it was like a Fist of the North Star homage / riff. We kind of were like, what if we created this in 2025? Like, what kind of things would they be drawing on? So instead of like nuclear war, it's like climate change is our apocalypse, Yeah. We put like a lot of martial arts in there, but like everybody likes Kung Fu. And so that was sort of where that came from. It was just like a fun project to do with a friend. And he had like a place for us to put it in the Good Devils anthology, or the Cry Punch anthology, sorry. And since all those stories were going to be kind of manga inspired, we were like, this is a good place to kind of exercise our fandom a little bit.
Excellent. Now, I like how you basically put the contrast of Fist of the North Star in there, and it's almost in that same comparison, because you have this story between Bella and Oya, and pretty much at that point, Bella has become like the overlord to the entire area, almost in the same breath as Fist of the North Star. But Oya's character, not only does she doesn't come to the point where in Fist of the North Star you train up and then you're finally just like having that final showdown. No, we gonna jump you.
Yeah, that's the fun part. It's actually, so if you read Fist of the North Star, I can't talk today. The chapter we're homaging, I think it's chapter 6. It's when Kenshiro meets Shin for the first time. And we were like, oh, this is our Kenshiro. We got Bella. We have our Shin. We got Oya. Let's do that story. Like, let's go right to the climax and have some fun. And we were like, how can we flip it though? Like, Fist of the North Star is very solitary. Like, he has a community around him, but Kenshiro, he kind of, walks the earth. He walks the wilderness himself. We were like, well, she should have a gang, and we could just like borrow the names of these 72 demons from, Catholic mythology, lore, demonology. It's like all those are like actual real things you can look up in Google that we pulled from the past. And we're like, yeah, this would be a fun way to flip that story. Like, let's just make it like it's not an honorable fight anymore. It's like actually good has to win, and by any means necessary.
I'll shoot you the fair one, but everybody got to get off this bus, because I'm not going to take this ass whooping alone.
Yeah, that's just the prelude. It's a little foreshadowing.
Excellent. It is funny because I saw a character in here by the name of Murmur, and I saw that I worked at a nightclub. I still work in nightclubs. I work at a nightclub that was called Murmur at that time. So I found the instant correlation. But also because of Nick's artwork, there's this point where you see Bella after the ass whooping that she took.
Yeah.
Good God.
It gets really realistic, right? Like, Nick's great at that kind of like flipping between cartoony and then like really representational.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a dream to work with. He's so good at comics.
And we can bring that up as well. Obviously, these 3 particular stories, a lot of people have gotten to know Nick Dragotta probably around 2024 with the with the whole storyline of Absolute Batman.
Yeah, it's a monster.
But to have, like stories that you basically concocted with him for throughout these three stories, that relationship that y'all built in order to create these small comics, of course, during the time of COVID, and feeling like, you know what, let's just see what we come up with.
Yeah.
How did that essentially happen for you?
We were just friends. I used to work at Image Comics years ago, and we met in person there. But he knew me from writing online. I used to write for Comics Alliance and my own website with some friends, fourthletter.net. And I would put him on to different kinds of manga and like storytellers there. And one guy, Tsutomu Nihei, he did Blam, Knights of Sidonia, Tower Dungeons, his new manga. Nick saw his work and was like, "Oh, this is going to change my life," and like it legit changed how he drew comics. So I liked his work from reading comics. He liked my work from reading about me reading comics. And then we met in person. We're like, oh, like we like each other as human beings too. Like we actually like want to hang out and be friends and whatnot. And so pretty much in between, like working with me doesn't pay the bills like Batman pays the bills. But I think I can bring like an interesting creative puzzle like for him and do stories like none of these stories we have in our one shot are like anything else on the shelves right now. I don't think.
No.
Well, actually, the third story maybe it's just a crime story. Like I feel like there's like a good history of those, but
I feel like there's something in comparison, and we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of draws from. Hopefully, we're on the same page, but it might be.
Yeah. No, I love to hear it. Yeah.
But Fight Like Hell.
Yes.
Which I felt like was a story of like almost like a Goku type of deal where like like this dude just wants to scrap.
Yeah.
Regardless of where he's at. And, he comes up in the underground scene and just is fighting his way up to the top. He grew up in poverty. He's kind of like just like living to fight until one fateful day, every fighter just kind of like has that day.
A wake up call.
Yeah. But even in the afterlife, who's your best fighter?
You are who you are. Yeah. That one, we did that for Zainab Akhtar's Short Box Comics Fair. And she's been a comics critic and publisher for a long time. She's based out of the UK. She's also a good friend of mine. And we were like, we can do any story we want. There's like no limitations other than, like time, And so we're homaging Hajime no Ippo from George Morikawa a little bit.
Okay.
We were like, what if Ippo was, he's a very good boy who loves his mother in the original manga. We're like, what if he was a jerk? Like, what if he was like the Vegeta of the story?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Even, like when he's in the ring, he's like very nonchalant and that sort of thing. And I was like, let's do a boxing manga, but make it kind of funny. Like, how can we flip this, but kind of keep the demon good devils theme? And so, yeah, he goes to heaven. Small spoilers for page 5 of that story.
Yeah. The first person that he fights on the page almost reminded me of Mad Max Beyond, well, not Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, but Mad Max the Road Warrior, like with the Jason mask and the chainsaw and everything like that. Like, it doesn't matter that people are bringing weapons into the ring. I'm just going to basically, if I'm the greatest boxer of the apocalypse, let me just try to take everybody out, regardless of what they bring in the ring.
Exactly. Everything's a challenge, and Nick loves Mad Max too. That's one of the first movies he remembers seeing. Because we were talking about that while we were producing all this stuff, is kind of figuring out what our shared influences are and kind of how they fit together. So there's like tons of little homages and things like that throughout. And I think my favorite thing about that story is that he's the self-proclaimed greatest boxer.
Yes.
And
this is what he says of himself.
Yeah. And I think that says a lot about that character. Like, it's just a one-off kind of like joke story, but if we wanted to do more, like that's where I would take that kind of approach. It's like he's very arrogant, but can he back it up? Like, is he actually the best boxer, or is he just the best boxer on his block?
Right.
Just two different things.
I mean, not to discount the fact that he's fighting everybody in chancletas like like Luffy. You know what I'm saying? Like straight up One Piece, because he's doing all.
Yeah, he's got the juice for sure.
For real. But yet, like when he gets up to heaven, the first person he calls out is somebody that he probably has never thought of fighting before. But your biggest champion. Be like, let me think of the Bible real quick. Who's the strongest guy I can find? Samson.
And just imagine like what that fight would be like. I think it'd be so interesting to see. Like, there's a lot of the Bible that's kind of adventure stories with like a religious bent. But like if you lean into the adventure side of things, it's like, oh yeah, this dude was so buff he could knock down a building with just by pushing out the pillars. Like, that's a warrior. Like, he might have some perspective.
Yeah, you really saw Samson as a fighter. You just saw him as somebody that was like incredibly muscular.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he doesn't know kung fu, or whatever it would have been, back in the day.
Now, if I can ask,
Yeah.
uh, when Jay arrives in heaven,
Hmm.
who's the coach with the arrows? Who does he represent?
That's Saint Sebastian,
Saint Sebastian.
who is the so I'm not I should say I'm not Catholic, but I enjoy reading about like the history and kind of like how they structure their religion. And
Hmm.
he's the patron saint of athletes and something else that was relevant. Where I was like, oh, he's got to be the guy. And I was like, oh, if he's the saint of athletes, like he would be the guy in heaven who's like, oh, what's up? You're phenomenal at what you do. Like, thanks for coming to visit us.
Right.
And he has the arrows because in all the art of Saint Sebastian from like Renaissance paintings, he was killed by arrows. So like, we'll just make this part of his design. And Nick based him off of. He just told me there's like a real life coach that he looks like a football dude. But yeah, we were like, what would be the ultimate coach in heaven? Like, what would
Right.
he come off as?
Like seriously, like he looked like Dick LeBeau, the old defensive
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's like interesting, like you have him like in his coach's like, what a coach would look like on the sideline.
yeah.
And yet all these arrows in him, and to find out he's like a patron saint of athletics, and that he was killed with arrows. I'm almost wondering now. I have to do like a deep dive into what reason that he got he got
Let's
murdered like
see.
this.
There was always like a martyring going on, but yeah, Wikipedia has a long page about him. It's really interesting.
Now, just from discussing these first two
Hmm.
stories and understanding how your mind works into building characterization,
Hmm.
like it's not only like, hey, draw the character and then I'll give him a little bit of personality. Let's try to pull a little bit from history, for maybe a little bit of history that a lot of people do not know.
Yeah,
Why do you feel the need to select certain things to basically draw a little bit more personality into the person that a lot of people wouldn't see?
I think it makes the story better overall. Like, so I'm a pure writer in comics. Like, I don't draw comics myself. I draw for fun, my own
Mhm.
thing. But
Yeah.
comics is way hard. So my job as writer is to communicate to the artist, like, here's what we're trying to do. And one of the best ways to do that is to tell them everything they need to know. So it's not just like, dude does a jump kick. It's like, oh, he does a jump kick, but it's kind of modeled after like Jet Li and Once Upon a Time in China too. Like it's one of
Mhm.
those kind of jump kicks. Or like Sebastian, all that stuff gives him a certain feel. Like he's sort of like a good natured coach. Like he's like a
Mhm.
high school coach you would trust, like just off rip.
Right.
We wanted that kind of feeling because you get to heaven, it's supposed to be like kind of positive and bright and yada yada. It'd be cool to have a guy who's there who will be firm with you if you need it, but also is there to like play the game.
Mm. Now,
And there's nothing like think of like all the songs you've heard that are better because they have like a little random detail thrown in.
this is true.
Yeah,
Like if there's like a specific beat change
yeah,
that tends to happen, like the producer just decided to get a little bit more complex with how I'm going to draw this up. Like you've been sitting there bobbing to this beat the entire time, and then all of a sudden, boom! They're like, wait, what
yeah.
happened?
That's like gas face. Yeah.
They're like, oh, there's a whole other part. Thanks, Timbaland.
There's something I think of a lot is Ghostface's song "Shaky Dog." There's a bit where he talks about it's basically the story of like an armed robbery where they invade somebody's house.
Mm-hmm.
But in the opening, he's like he could smell the beans and rice or whatever the dudes were eating on the couch, and he's like, "I'm hungry, I want some." And then they go into the robbery, and I'm like, that adds so much character to this story,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's completely irrelevant. It's just like, oh, these guys are in this building cooking, drugs and red beans and rice or something.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just making the story like fully featured, both for the artist and for the reader.
Well, it's funny because that's like a perfect segue because if we get into the third story that we have in Good Devils, uh,
Hmm.
skits and hip hop.
Yeah,
What happened?
there were so many bad ones. I think that they really ran it into the ground, but there were a lot of good ones in the '90s when I was coming.
There was a lot in the '90s. There was like close
Deep
to
dropped.
yeah. There was like well, the one that we're going to talk about. But before
Yeah,
yeah, the one that we're going to talk about happens, of course, in the last portion of of this book, and it's the
yeah.
go back story. Now, for one,
Hmm.
I felt like it resembled the Warriors, but more in a singular fashion,
Hmm.
where somebody basically committed a heinous act, and all he ever wanted to do was get back home.
Yeah.
almost in the same way that the Warriors do. They got, of course, falsely accused of something, and then of course they meet all these different particular villains all the way throughout. And of course, I think it's built off of a Greek tragedy.
Yeah, I
The
can see
Warriors
that.
movie was, and necessarily there's this one particular portion of it where there's two people on the stairs talking about packing the Mac in the back of the act. Of course,
Yeah.
capital punishment, big pun, which was a skit at that time. If anybody didn't know, it's a Mac 10 in the back of an Acura Integra. He's trying to explain it to him. Still don't get it.
Yeah.
Like
I
I feel like skits are important.
they can add so much to an album. I love Kid Cudi, but the album that had all the Beavis and Butthead skits in between the songs didn't work for me
Yeah,
because it pulled me out of the music. But for the pun album, Capital Punishment, it added the pun's character.
yeah,
It's another funny story about like something horrible happening. And in almost everything I do, there's some like rappers are my favorite writers. They're my biggest influence growing up. I mean, the way that I try to express myself online is very much kind of derived from what I learned from everyone from like Rakim to Outkast to Charlie Baltimore to like
hmm
Company Flow and all those kind of people. So I'm always like throwing stuff in there. I don't know if there's a lot in Good Devils. I'd have to go back and check. But that one, I was like, I need incidental dialogue, and I need people to be arguing while our character moves through this room. And I was like, we should just do the pun skit because people don't get skits anymore, and people who do get skits really like them. And there's no like in between. Nobody's
yeah.
like mid on skits, you know.
Now,
And I love, yeah.
Did Nick know that reference?
I told him. I gave him a link to the song just to know, just so we're all like on the same page. Because I don't think he was a pun guy growing up. Like he was like a skater boy, you know.
Ah, okay.
But I was like, yeah, it's one of my favorite skits from when I was a kid too, because it starts with, it's very serious. There's like a robbery, a shooting, and the guy's like, yeah, like I survived it because I was packing a Mac in the back of the act. And the guy's like, packing a Mac in the back of the act.
And
And
then
then they sing it, they like harmonize.
back of the act, back of the back of the back of the act, back of the back of the back of the act, of the back.
Yeah, the back of the Mac. Yeah, it's so good. And it's like the perfect fodder because people who get it, like you got it. And I've had
Yeah.
other friends who texted me cussing me out because they saw it.
Yep.
Finally I didn't tell them it was going to be in there. And that's the stuff that makes comics sing to me because there's so many. Like if it was a Beatles joke, that'd be normal, or like the
Right.
Rolling Stones or something. There's DC metal, but there's not DC funk.
Yeah. But having that portion, that's track 10 or track 9 off of Capital Punishment.
Yeah.
So you would have to listen to that album in detail in order to know about that. It's kind of like the Chinese restaurant in the score. That skit.
Yeah.
So that
That's another
particular
one.
skit where they got into the argument with the guy in the Chinese restaurant
Yeah.
before Cowboys. Or no,
It's wild.
or was it Zealots? I think it was before either Zealots or
I
Cowboys.
think it was Zealots. I'd have to go back and look. It's been years
Yeah,
since
so
I last heard that.
So the argument in the Chinese restaurant led to that track, and
Yeah.
it's almost because you hear the undertone of the beat, the bass line starts to play at the end of the skit, and then boom, it just
And
jumps.
it fades in. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a trip. Like there's so many things like that add a lot to comics where we kind of see ourselves in there or like recognize things that we know. I've been reading old Amazing Spider-Man, and like that is full of pop culture references at the time. Even like with the wrestling and that sort of thing, it's like this is the stuff that people who read those books knew. Like there's no such thing as timeless writing. I don't think everything's of its time, so you might as well lean into it. Like the people I want to love this comic the most are the people who get that joke. You know what I mean?
Sure, man. Absolutely. Now, when we're getting into this last one, this is pretty much the longest one. Where basically escape don't come easy and friends are even harder to come by. The fonts that you decided that you and Nick decided to basically like place throughout these particular frames and the way that the storyline is cut up. You talked about at the end credits, the liner notes at the end of this book, Highest to Lowest that just came out with Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Akira Kurosawa. And if you notice from like even just the trailers and everything, how the chopping starts to happen, almost like in the pages that you have here at the end of this book. Now you said you were about like a month too late.
I was in the theater watching Highest to Lowest. Like this dude is doing the exact thing that I'm doing, but with like $100 million more. Because fundamentally, I think Go Back is the least homaging of the stories that we did.
Yeah.
But all the like homage things that we came from, like it's the stories that built us. Like Martin Scorsese, we like Big Pun. There's pun in that story.
Yeah.
But the it's still like one of the stories that made us. We kind of like evolved out of it. So I think it's important to pay homage to what came before. Like the lettering in that, like the title pages you were talking about. Nick got that style from Alex Toth back in the day. Classic comics artist.
Oh wow.
He had too many good comics to name. If you Google Alex Toth, like just every single drawing is going to be too good to believe. And he's like, this is a cool way to get information across. So those originally started as kind of shorthand for me and Nick to like know what was in each chapter. So he did the first one. I was like, oh, that's like kind of good. We should keep doing this. And then we kind of leaned into the skit for that one.
Yeah.
So like collaboration, I feel, I never would have seen that coming. I never would have made that decision myself. But when he made it, I was like, oh, this was definitely the right decision. Like that's his pro storytelling at work.
No, and you see that through every single page. Like I brought up the fact of the Warriors earlier. I
Yeah.
also see the fugitive in this. Like
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
that's an old Tommy Lee Jones movie. I mean, of course, it was a old 1960s TV show and everything like that.
Yeah. But Tommy Lee, he owned it. That was a family movie for us growing up.
Yeah, it wasn't me. It was the one armed man.
Yeah. I love chase stories. I feel like it's easy to lean on because it's like fundamentally an underdog thing. Like, how's this guy going to get out of this?
Yeah.
But seeing somebody scramble for their life and the different decisions they're making, like, that's when you really reveal who a character is and who that character can be. And our guy, we were like, what if like he just didn't fight the whole story? Everything he does until the very end, like he does a lot of shooting, but it's almost non-violent. Like he's not trying to kill anybody.
Oh, he's trying to evade and escape.
Yeah, like set somebody up to, open the door. And, because not everybody gets to be John McClane.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I could do Die Hard. I've taken martial arts for most of my life at this point. I'm pretty sure I couldn't do a Die Hard situation.
No.
So it made no sense to see, like, some random kid get away with it. Let's see what they would look like if he won, but not because he was the best at fighting.
Yeah, if somebody shot out some windows, there's no way I'm walking around barefoot for the entire movie.
Yeah, no way. I'm out.
I haven't. I better find me some socks.
Yeah, find me a fire escape.
And I also like that basically you see throughout the whole thing, he doesn't necessarily give revealed as to what his name is, and you could tell throughout every single page his distrust for people, except for Monty, the old dude on the corner.
Yeah, there's always an older guy. I feel like, especially being black, where there's some old black dudes you can't trust, but there's some who they're like solid dudes.
Oh yeah.
If you can have some in your life, they're the ones who tell you like you don't want to go down that path, and you might not pay attention, but later on you realize, oh, he was definitely right.
Isn't that always the truth?
Yeah, like a little age and a little perspective goes a long way. And I was like, what if just the nicest guy to this kid is just this dude who lives outside of his, his boss's compound, because he's always straight, always honest with him. He lives the way kind of like he would like to live, like he found his balance. Mm-hmm. And we based him on Gil Scott-Heron. Actually, that's something I forgot to mention earlier.
Ah, yeah.
That's the secret sauce in Go Back, is that Nick and I both love Gil Scott-Heron, and we independently mentioned the song "New York Is Killing Me" to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was mentioned. I was like, yeah, I've been listening to this song a lot. It's called "New York Is Killing Me," and I was like, oh, from I'm New Here, this other album I listen to all the time. And there's a lot of that album in this. There's even a bit about like, having to leave New York and go back to somewhere else because New York is killing me.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the story of Go Back, is like New York is killing him. He's got to go back home to see what's up with his family and kind of recenter that way.
Just got to get across the bridge. I also feel like that there's a Chappelle joke in there too. There's always that old brother on the corner talking about, no, man, don't do that. That'll get you 5 to 10.
Absolutely. It's fun. I love, like, crime comics are one of my like core loves. I read Frank Miller's The Big Fat Kill #5 when I was a kid. It's my first cuss words and violence comic, and it ruined my life. Like the Brubaker Phillips Criminal. I'm looking at the hardcovers on my shelf over here to my left.
Yeah, now that just dropped.
Yeah, a new story.
Yeah,
The Knives a couple weeks ago. And they've got a new one shot coming in December, so I'm feasting right now,
See, that's why I don't think that they get. I don't think Brubaker and Phillips get that they're kind of like our Grisham now.
Yeah. I love the consistency and the longevity. They got together in 2000, 2001, somewhere around there. And I can't think of anyone else in comics that has that kind of partnership,
Right. I mean, shit, Grisham had commercials on TV.
Yeah.
Get the new John Grisham novel. Like,
Those movies too. Again, those were family events. Like we
those were
went to
family
see A
events.
Time to Kill.
Yep. Yeah, man.
Man.
Now, in putting all these three together, what do you say is the general theme throughout this entire book that you wanted to reach everybody with the three particular stories?
I think doing good is hard. It's like finding the right decision is easy, but actually sticking with it and doing the right thing is
Mhm.
tough. Our stories, of course, are adventure stuff. You got to beat up the bad guy to win, or whatever, whatever. But in real life, like if you want to help somebody, you really got to commit to helping somebody. It's not like a drop $5 in the thing at Walgreens and walk away deal. It's a lifetime commitment. And so I think what we're getting at in the stories is that even when the world gets bad, like you got to have that strength of will, you know, to stick with your values, stick with your morals.
Mm. Now, what did this pitch look like to Image? Because you've
Oh, we
done
did the comics. Yeah, we had
you
the
did these
comics
before.
done. So we sent Eric Stevenson the books. So we had the benefit of a prior relationship. I worked there for like 4.5 years. Nick, of course, had East to West there, ran for like 45, 50 issues. So we emailed the publisher. We were like, hey, we did these stories. We have enough for about a one shot. We can do 60 something pages. What do you think? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And like, typically laconic Stevenson fashion, just very short and to the point, like looks cool. And we took it from there. We got my old coworker Sasha Head. We used to do the Image Plus magazine together. I was the editor, she was the designer. We'd
Oh,
work late too often, and she did the design for the comic. So it's basically me and Nick doing the story, Sasha on design, my old coworker Erica doing like the production and layout.
yeah.
So like a very all in the family thing for me, all friends, which I was really appreciative of because that's a rare experience in comics.
What, now was the cover done initially, or did you like, hey Nick, we just got this done? Can you can you put a cover together?
It was done. We had the first draft of it, I think, in June. It was not too long before the solicits, and I was like,
Okay.
let's sneak in one last homage. Let's do 36 Chamber of Shaolin." And he was like, "Yeah,
Ah,
we could flip that."
because I'll tell you this. Before me looking at the interiors of this book, like
Yeah,
that cover photo of Bella,
yeah.
of Oya.
Oh no, Bella. Yeah,
It is
yeah,
Bella. I'm sorry. Look, phenomenal. And then to the right, you know, looking like a dead president's homage over there on the right hand side.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's my dream. I love that movie too.
same.
Yeah,
I
like
felt
that
like
kind
that was
of.
I felt like that was Chris Tucker's best work.
It might be
Might be.
that like post Vietnam War Black America. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of fertile ground there. I think we don't see too often. I think Dead Presidents had a lot of fun with it.
Oh yeah, because not only did it play with a lot of young black men going to Vietnam, it also
Hmm.
played and toyed with uh the I guess the unresponsiveness of what the world was going to be like
Yeah,
back. Like the most dangerous man in that war became a preacher.
yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
the most
fascinating.
violent one, like
Yeah.
became the one that went to the Lord.
Man, I gotta watch that movie again soon. It's been a couple years now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
But that's another of those things that sort of defined what stories could be for me. Like I learned about New York City from Marvel Comics and rap music. And then, I eventually got to the real New York. Like I've, been there a lot. I've had friends there. But
hmm
there's still that fantasy New York in my head, but there's alleys everywhere,
yeah.
which, I guess is not true in real life. I was very disappointed to find out.
Yeah, a lot of those alleys are pretty much gone right about now.
Yeah.
They're now full city blocks and taller skyscrapers than what they were when they beforehand. I'm from Jersey.
Yeah, yeah. So you get it. Like you got to go like way out, way, way out in Brooklyn to find like a proper alley nowadays.
Exactly. For sure. Now you used to be well, you're from Florida?
From Georgia.
Georgia.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you moved to Oakland.
Yeah. I went from Georgia to San Francisco and then I bounced to Oakland after getting priced out of San Francisco. And it feels like home here. It's nice.
Excellent. Now as far as like your career in comics, because
Hmm.
what you've been doing over the past 10 years has been mixed with uh you don't play your hand in one pot. You tend to do
Yeah.
a lot of things. So now with the podcast, Manga's planning, this is
Yeah.
basically it started as an introduction for manga for you, and now it's just a continuous dive into these storylines for you.
Yeah, so we have our friend Chip Zdarsky, another comics guy. He's writing Captain America right now. He
Yeah.
had a great run on Daredevil. We all went to Japan together, and he was like, "I don't know what any of these characters are. I don't know any of these like stories, any of these comics." We're like, "Oh, we could do a podcast where we make Chip read manga and teach him read manga's plain Chip." And we're like 100 and something episodes in now, and he's no longer a newbie. Like he gets it.
He's in.
Yeah, so it's basically a book club, which is like probably the best type of podcast because it's just four friends talking about things they like and laughing about it 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been fascinating because like I know what I enjoy. Like I've talked a lot about like crime comics and that sort of thing here.
Yeah.
But he has similar but different interests. We worked on Time Waits together, and that's because of the manga podcast. We could see kind of how we were meshing, and then also like the ways we bounce away from each other. We thought it could be a good combination. So it's like me, Chip, Deb Aoki, and Christopher Butcher. And Chris and Deb actually flipped it also into a manga publisher. Like they've got like a side manga splaining deal where they're putting out, legit books through people like Fantagraphics. So
Wow.
it blew up in a way that I never saw coming. I still have a day job. I kept my job, but they are having a good time.
That's phenomenal. Now, with your assumption of Western comics and of manga,
Yeah.
do you feel like there's a difference in storylines?
I think there's a few core differences in storytelling, but it's less a bad thing and more just sort of like it's like having a menu, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you want like the vegan option, sometimes you want like the bloody steak or burger or whatever. I think that like Western comics, like superhero comics in particular, excel at this kind of like world spanning, all the toys smashing together kind of story that you can't really get in manga in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this all speaking like super generically or generalizing.
Right.
But manga is sort of known for having greater emotional depth. Like they really get in the heads of characters and
True.
power stories that way. So depending on what kind of spectacle you like, if you like, like actually, I think what makes Absolute Batman so interesting right now is that Nick is a manga fan, and he's bringing a lot of that to the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more close-ups. There's like different kind of pacing going on the page, and sort of he's meshing his manga sensibilities with Scott Snyder's like straight up Western comic sensibilities.
Yeah.
So
Like
I love having both. Yeah,
yeah, you almost feel as though the creation of the absolute villains
yeah,
that he's been, of course, they've been introducing it like almost like every other couple episodes. They're almost like reiterations of those characters, almost like a physical manifestation.
hmm
Like what would Killer Croc look like if he was like, a little bit more in depth? What would Bane look like if he was just like this gigantor
yeah. It's a
looking character?
fun mental game. Like I think the one thing, especially Cape Comics can do that manga can't, is they have 80 years of history.
Yeah.
So, we've been reading Bane comics since we were kids. People reading Batman comics since before my grandfather was born.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really, sorry, I got a motorcycle in the neighborhood.
Oh,
That's a really powerful tool to have in your arsenal.
yeah.
And it doesn't hit quite the same when it's like Naruto, because Naruto is just in the story of Naruto, which is great on like its own merits. But then Superman has to be great on its own merits as well.
It's true.
So, yeah, I think that having both in my life for so long and having favorites on either side, it sort of blends them in my head. But I definitely go for one or the other when I want like a certain kind of experience, just kind of on a basic level.
Do you feel as though manga has more of an expansion of genres rather than
Yeah,
westernized comics?
I think that Western comics have a lot, but because of how the market works, we mostly see superheroes.
Yeah.
But because of how manga is rolled out here, there's many, many more genres to choose from, even though a lot of them are going to be aimed at teenagers instead of adults. Like shonen
Mhm.
manga, all that stuff, is mostly for teens and under. But there's all kinds of stories in shonen manga, so it kind of balances out. Same in shoujo, comics for girls. There's Yona of the Dawn, which is an amazing adventure comic, and there's stuff like Nana, which is more of like a women in the city having adventures sort of thing. And both are classic and well loved, and like it's nice to have that kind of diversity of storytelling.
Yeah.
And it's a little harder to find in Western stuff. Independent publishers have a lot. I think Image has done well with it. Of course, Fantagraphics with Love and Rockets, but it's always like on a tier below whatever the new Batman or Superman is for some reason,
True.
even if it might be one of the best comics ever.
Yeah, and almost, I guess, would you feel as though Does Westernized Comics actually like invest in the emotional arcs of some of their characters?
I think it depends on the writer. Like Absolute Batman, it's easy point of reference. Like Snyder is a guy who's really good at that because he has like a horror background.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can do a good horror movie where you don't care about the characters. You can do a good slasher, but that's like a different thing. But
Hmm.
like horror, where it's like creeping and dread and that sort of thing, you got to have that characterization. And Stan Lee back in the day, his big innovation, for lack of a better word, was like bringing kind of like a snappier pattern, like making the characters feel younger and bright. And I think
Hmm.
that's sort of like a step towards kind of like what we enjoy about manga.
Yeah.
Not like an intentional step, but it's like sort of getting in the same realm.
Mm. Now, would you say like Spider-Man is kind of like the closest type of character that could adapt well to manga?
Yeah, I feel like Spider-Man manga is like the easiest sell in the world. They did
Yeah.
one in the 80s that Ryuichi Ikegami drew. Maybe it was the 70s, like late 70s, early 80s. It was pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah, and there's even so my day job I work at Viz Media,
Okay.
editing manga for a living, and one of my series is Spider-Man Kizuna, which is sort of a Japanese version of Spider-Man. It's like flipping the idea in another way, like he bonds with like a Japanese schoolboy. It's like a ghost kind of thing possessing a human sort of deal.
Yeah.
And there's like clever ideas in there too, and they're all like refreshing Spider-Man villains, so they're all high schoolers now. So it's like Black Kitty Cat instead of Black Cat. You know, I'm like it's like smart dumb humor. It's super
Right.
good.
Right. But
Yeah, so I think there is some of that in Western books and also in Japanese books, like the cultural exchange we're in the middle of, and like have been in the middle of for the past 40 years is really cool. Seeing what's coming of that.
have they done that with any other characters aside from like a Spider-Man type character that kind of resembled it?
There's Batman something Justice, Full Justice. It's like a full Japanese Batman manga, and it's done like in a very classic Batman style. Like they just want to do like a proper Batman book.
Oh,
There's stuff like that, but there's also stuff like I think Superman has to raise the Joker who's a baby for some reason, and it's like a comedy manga.
really?
Yeah. Oh,
That's
actually, on Webtoons they introduced Batman Family Adventures or something. I'm bad with titles today, but it's
uh,
basically like all of the like Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson, all those kids, the
yeah.
Batmans and Robins, all of them hanging out, having like civilian life adventures instead of like personal like superhero stuff.
Hmm.
So like going to school, like arguing with each other, trying to decide who's the favorite kid, and that sort of stuff is getting like more and more common. And I think that's like a direct manga influence for sure.
Oh my God. Now,
Yeah.
well, what do you say? Now we talked about what made you put these three particular stories together.
Hmm.
Um, Now, do any of the characters represent parts of yourself or people that you know?
Oh man. I think the kid is a combination of most black dudes I grew up with, including myself.
Hmm.
Just in terms of like the way he kind of moves quietly and like watches before things happen, but like can't stop getting into trouble.
Hmm.
Like sometimes it's not your fault, but like sometimes you did, do something you shouldn't have done that got you into some hot water. I The single mother in Go Back was definitely like a little bit of my mom. Like she had me when she was 18, so
Hmm.
she was in she had just graduated high school when I was born. So like, I grew up and getting older made me realize like, holy crap, like single motherhood might be the hardest job on planet Earth.
Word.
So I wanted to make sure that, there's a little bit of that in there, and not in a way that it's so stigmatized.
Hmm.
People are really cruel to like single mothers. And I was like,
Oh,
let's just have like
absolutely.
just a normal woman treated normally in this story and like shown that she has value and all that kind of thing. I don't think I was thinking it in those terms, but I was like, yeah, I can pull from these experiences.
Mm.
In Fight Like Hell, that one, I don't know, that one's mostly fiction, I think, because I was pulling so much from fantasy. And same thing for Good Devils, it's mostly fantasy. Like some of that's my opinion or like
Right.
our opinion. Nick's, of course, has input too. But it's not like directly pulling for me, let's say.
Got you. Now, this particular storyline drops what October 1st, correct?
Yep, October 1st, about a week from tomorrow. Yeah.
Now, prior to this release, what has the reception been like? Since have you been able to pass it around and
Yeah.
seen what everybody has felt about it?
The right people think it's good, which is maybe the mean way to phrase it. But you make a book and there's like certain people you're like, if they like this, like I know I kind of got it, and I send it around to some comics friends, like Jeff Parker, Steve Lieber, and these guys, the Helioscope Studio in Portland. I really appreciate, and they really enjoyed it, and I was like, man, we really got something here. Lieber, he said something very nice about it while we were hanging out at Rose City Comic Con. And I was like, this guy is one of the best ever. And if he thinks this is pretty good, hopefully, everybody else can see how good it is.
Yeah.
But even with that, even with like my personal biases of wanting my friends to like it specifically, I think people like journalists and creators who I don't know have said that they liked it too as well, which is always kind of gratifying. Because I think we're doing something that is hard to explain and isn't like most other comics that are out right now. Like it's a long shot, but I think the quality is there.
The quality is absolutely there. But then there's also the question of this: if there was a decision, which of these three particular stories could carry on and become its own?
I think Go Back, because then I could just do the Brubaker Phillips thing of having like a criminal series, different protagonists every time.
You're talking.
Yeah, that's my ideal. That's like the dream gig for me is, black and white crime comics. But we did design Good Devils in a way to where it could be ongoing because we have like kind of this Fist of the North Star base. We wouldn't keep homaging it, but we could build from the foundation we have now.
Yeah.
And post-apocalyptic action is always fun, like all kinds of technicals with guns on the back and like dudes with hockey masks and machetes and stuff. It's a good aesthetic and fun to play in.
Yeah,
and climate change is only getting closer. So
this is true, and even though that story is like a few years old from when you actually like published it, you even have the spheres. You ain't even have to watch Paradise on Hulu in order to get that done.
Yeah, no, it's the real deal. That is born out of some real anxiety.
Absolutely.
But I think in terms of ongoing stuff, I really enjoy finite stories, and I think that's what Brubaker and Phillips are doing well. Is they're doing like series of single stories, and I would want to do something like that. That's like the best case scenario for any type of story, I think.
Yeah, and then is that more so the way to go, having that kind of like creep show Twilight Zone type of vignettes, kind of in resembling what you're doing now?
It's a tough sell in comics because anthologies are difficult, but I think in terms of like getting good work and making interesting comics, it's the best way to do it because you buy one book, you get 3 stories that are like 2.5 different genres, let's say, and that's you don't get the same feeling from like a Spider-Man comic. Kind of just get a Spider-Man story if you do that. So I think there's value in anthologies, and hopefully they come back in a big way.
For sure, David. Yeah. I appreciate you doing this with me.
No, man, this was great. I'm glad we made it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that did not know, we messed up. I messed up last week.
Yeah, and I messed up today.
And so it's quite all right. We're here, everybody.
Yeah, we made it.
Absolutely. So October 1st, Good Devils Don't Play Fair will be released to the various amount of audiences live on everybody's bookshelf. So I appreciate you talking with me.
Yeah.
And can't wait to have this in my house.
Oh, I've got one last plug for you. I should have mentioned it earlier. There's this book called All Negro Comics coming out from Image Comics.
You know what?
Have you heard about it?
I've absolutely heard about it. As a matter of fact, I think Chris Robinson is
the editor.
Part of that.
Yeah.
Yes. So
you should reach out to him. I've got an essay in the back of that. It's basically the first comic that was made for Black people by Black people in 1947 by a journalist back then. One issue came out and then it was out of print and went into public domain. And he actually found scans, like he got it put back together. It was super hard to find, and now it came out in like a nice little soft cover from Image.
Yeah, because
I got an essay back there about how hip hop and comic books were my genesis. And I'm like, this is the coolest project I've ever been a part of, like hands down.
That's what's happening. Because I remember the Ace Harlem comics that were part of that. And I remember talking with Troy Jeffrey Allen, who works for Mad Cave as of right now. He used to work for Diamond Distributors. And he was making a digital magazine called Afro Futures. And he actually did a retelling of Ace Harlem for this magazine. So, yeah, I am on the lookout for that. So when is that dropping?
It's the end of October for comic shops and early November for bookstores. I think it's like the 22nd, 28th, something like that. It's a busy October. I got you at the top, and then Chris has you at the end.
Look, I will gladly reach out to Chris. You know what I'm saying? And look, if we got to do this again with you and Chris,
Yeah, anytime. This is a delight.
absolutely. So, of course, for everybody here at the Faqs Project, David Brothers, Good Devils Don't Play Fair is going to be live in stores October 1st. All Negro Comics. If you said late October,
Late October for comic shops, early November for bookstores.
be on the lookout for that. Of course, David is going to be attached to that as one of his essays is going to be put in that as well. Also, given the fact if we get a chance to do this again, hopefully we get Chris Robinson and Mr. Brothers back here one more time to talk about all Negro comics. That would be fantastic. So for everybody here at the Faqs Project, thank you again for being here. We are out.